really good job. As we continue rolling, going from one, they've got a very specific target audience. We're rolling into something that is not only for everyone, both the brand and the moderator, but also I'd be hard-pressed to find someone in this audience that maybe hasn't interacted. So please keep the energy rolling and welcome up to the stage Brigitte, Chief Digital Officer for Colgate-Palmolive, and David from Google.
Wait.
I can help. Oh, good.
That would have been an exciting start.
I know, right? Great start.
You handled it well. Shifting gears a little bit, Brigitte, a lot about retail and to the consumer, and we thought about talking more about digital transformation as a theme. Hopefully that's okay for everyone. Dive right in.
Absolutely.
So you started your career at Colgate-Palmolive a while back. Should I say which century?
How long ago? I'll tell you in a minute.
And you're back at Colgate now, a 217-year-old company.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that journey, maybe what changed.
Sure. So pleasure to be here. Took the trek from Upper Park Ave all the way down to Hudson Yards. But happy to be here and actually just talk about digital transformation. I did start my career at Colgate-Palmolive, so this is what you call the proverbial full circle moment. I started in brand marketing as a product manager, and I really learned the fundamentals of marketing. Developing products, looking at the science, the formulas, the marketing, the advertising. And what's fascinating is I get to come back after having what I call some of the best training of my marketing career at Colgate-Palmolive to actually lead the digital transformation 20 plus years later. So it's really full circle, but it is a 200-year-old company in over 200 countries where 80% of our sales are derived out of the US. So those things are the same, but what's incredibly different is the embracing of digital, the new marketing in a digital age to reach our consumers in new and effective ways. And that's the journey we're on, and that's what we're trying to get done.
So an amazing brand, an amazing journey, like you said, over 200 years. Then you have insights and maybe some lessons learned you're going to share with us.
Yeah, so, a lot of people, right, is everyone asking about digital transformation today, or is that part of the agenda, right, that everyone's talking about? It's probably the biggest buzzword, and I've spent a lot of time in this area. I pivoted to digital many years ago, building out the first e-com sites in the beauty business, and I will tell you there's some hard lessons learned, but I'll share what I can if it's helpful. First, I think coming into any kind of digital transformation, you have to do three things. And I boiled it down to this. You have to listen, learn, and assess the business. You're going to think you know what to do. We talked about cookieless world. We talked about digital media buying. Don't assume. Listen and learn the business that you're in to decide where your priorities are really going to need to be that will impact the business. That's like a fundamental. I joined Colgate virtually during the pandemic. I did like 120 onboardings one-to-one around the world on Zoom. And I literally took notes from every one-to-one I had, and then I went back 60 days later and I was like, okay, what do I need to get done? So that listen, learn, assess is really important, especially when you're new and you're trying to figure out what is the scope of what I need to do here. The second thing I think is always articulate your strategy simply and clearly. And that's hard, especially when it comes to digital. You can go down a lot of rabbit holes. There's a lot of complexity in digital. And I think you have to get your strategy on a page. And that really matters as you deal with the C-suite, as you deal with really articulating and selling in your vision and rallying everyone around it. And the third thing, establish some priorities and KPIs and make them quantifiable. If you're working in a large CPG company with a multinational presence and a matrixed organization, you really do have to know what numbers you want to put on the board. And that matters, and it just really adds to the transformation journey because people can see progress. When they can see it, they feel it, and then you can keep going. So those are some of my hard-earned lessons.
Yeah, and I'm lucky to be with Colgate over 12 years now, more on the technology side with another big technology provider, and now with Google. We're very thankful that you use Google Ads, and you're a huge supporter of our business there, and Google Cloud, which is the area of the business that I represent. So with that in mind, and once again, thank you for being such a good partner in that area, because it really is a true partnership. You work through the good things with us, you work through the not as good things with us. And I've watched some of those technology decisions over the last few years, Google or other areas of technology, and we know they're not easy. Maybe that's helpful to share a bit with the team around, the people here around, how you make those decisions, how you choose what technology to go after.
Sure. Look, I think we have, and I have instituted somewhat of rigor and discipline in our technology platform decisions that we need to make to be great at digital. And it's a process, right? We take RFPs really seriously, requests for proposal. We are very fair in our assessment. We really look at all the capabilities. We try to assess pros and cons. And I think we always look for technology decisions given the size of our company with global scale in mind, right? Like what I do in the US also has to be applicable or relevant to India, which also has to be relevant to Europe. So when you're doing a digital transformation of that scope, globality, right, and the relevance of these solutions and the scaling of them really matters. Doesn't mean you can't do different decisionings, depending on data, privacy, things like that, but fundamentally you're looking for scale. And, we've worked with partners, just to acknowledge, our vendor partners are really our partners. I was listening to a session earlier and I loved what someone said, which is you have to be vulnerable. You have to ask questions you don't know the answer to. And along these journeys, there are going to be a lot of complex things that come up, especially with technology. And we have partners like Google at the table who we're asking things and you're helping us answer. And that's really important. That's also part of making good technology decisions, is having really great partners around you.
Okay, well, those were the easy questions. Now we have scheduled a bit of a lightning round. So just close your eyes, fire the first thing that comes into your mind, one short answer. Hopefully I'll make it a short question as well. Let's see, where do we start? Skin health. Last few years, 5 years ago, Colgate moved kind of from 4 key categories: oral care, home care, personal care, pet nutrition, if I have those right in that order, traditionally the business. And then skin health came along. Some key acquisitions that were, I think, meant to be in the high growth, higher margin area of the business: Filorga, PCA, EltaMD.
You got it?
Okay, that wasn't a very short question, was it? And I hear that you're a bit of a skincare junkie. So what comes to mind? Colgate skincare products. What blows you away?
Okay, does anybody here love skincare? I love skincare. Yeah, I can see all the, okay, so serums, can we talk serums? So Filorga is actually a newly acquired French-based brand that Colgate acquired. It's a beautiful brand, very high luxe brand. NCEF shot. It's the pink serum in a glass bottle. I call it the millennial pink. It is literally one of the best serums I've ever tried on my skin, and I have worked in beauty, so I can say that for real. I've tried probably every serum at Sephora, and then some, but NCEF shot is literally one of the best products that I've ever tried. PCA skin, hyaluronic acid, which is, for anyone who wants to have better skin, absolutely the formula you should put on. And then, of course, top it off with EltaMD UV tinted sunscreen. So yes, bit of a skincare junkie there.
Okay, well, I'll get more lightning. Cleaning floors. What do you use to clean your floors? Why?
Okay, so I do my face and I clean my floors. I have 2 boys at home, so for real, I do take out the mop on the weekends because it gets messy. I do use Fabuloso because I learned that just works and it seems to keep my house hygienated. And if it's wooden floors, I use Murphy's Oil soap.
Should we go into why, or do we just skip that one?
No, I think we can skip that.
Easy one for many of us, hopefully you as well. How about your favorite oral care products?
Oh, okay. Well, Colgate is known for oral care, of course, so you guys probably all know the Colgate brand, but I hope also what you're hearing is all these other beautiful brands that are marketed under the Colgate-Palmolive company name. And what we're doing is just trying to get these products into the right people's hands at the right time in the right place, and we're using digital to do that. So for me, oral care, even though it's our biggest business, and definitely, has great science-backed formulas and innovation, it's all about optic white. It's all about whitening your smile. It's all about performance-based oral care. And, at the end of the day, these aren't just cosmetic products. For Colgate, they are science-based products, and they're really about making sure we are fulfilling our mission. Like, we have products for people, pets, and the planet, as you said, Hill's dog food, and we just want to make sure they get to the right people and the right audiences, and we're leveraging a lot of techniques to do that in what I call marketing in a digital age. So it's a lot of fun, and it's even better to actually be able to use and enjoy the products as you do that.
Still on the lightning round. Now we're getting more personal.
I
now
like
it's
your
more
shoes.
about. I can tell you the story about the shoes and the pants, but that's only if we have time at the end. What time of day do you feel most creative?
So I would say morning is when I'm most in my thinking zone, which will allow me to be creative, because I just am generally just processing and thinking and reading. I do keep, as digital as I am, I have a proverbial red notebook always on the right-hand side of my desk or even in my bag in the back, because I will jot down things as they come to me, and it can be any time of day. But I find that if I don't lightning fire write it down, I may forget it. So I really do still write stuff down, and I really think that's how you kind of also process your thoughts. And so I find morning and then my notebook.
And one reason to kind of dive into those types of questions, Brigitte is the first chief digital officer in a company that's over 200 years old, so kind of like not an insignificant challenge.
It wasn't easy. No, and on that note, I would say we have a leadership team that was really engaged and strategically going in this direction, right? And I think as we've worked with you, Dave, at Google, you see kind of the seriousness of what we're trying to do strategically for the company. The exciting thing is everybody's willing to learn, and we did massive digital upskilling programs throughout the entire corporation. So everybody's in it to play, in it to learn, in it to be curious. And I find that our leaders are also willing to ask questions that they don't know the answers to. And when you have that to work with, anything's possible.
So hopefully I didn't already prod the answer out of you. But then the last one, I think in the lightning round, was what gets you out of bed in the morning?
Besides needing to work, get to my job on time, I would say, look, for me, I love building teams and building teams that really are successful. So I would say that's actually a primary motivation at this point in my career, is garnering great satisfaction and gratification from seeing the success of the talent around you. Digital transformations are not a solo journey. They take a village. They take enormous amounts of effort and energy, and I just love to see the teams succeed. And that's what gets me going. I mean, I think there's also a purpose to Colgate-Palmolive. It's really meaningful. Our CEO on down talks about our mission, our vision, our values, and we're using each functional area of expertise to fulfill that vision. So that's a pretty satisfying thing to do.
So I had a little bit more to ask around kind of upskilling the workforce, the wheelhouse of the chief digital officer to a certain extent. But maybe I'll pause that just for a sec. And when you talked about brand and you alluded to purpose, I think of Bright Smiles, Bright Future, the campaign that was out a few years ago, and then getting a little teary. I saw a video, I think it was The Power of the Smile. Can you expand a little bit on that for us?
Sure. I mean, as I said, Colgate is more than the products that it sells. So part of Bright Smiles, Bright Futures is very much a fundamental campaign around keeping oral care health accessible and available to all people around the world, right? And not everyone has access to a dentist. And so it really is an important part of how Colgate-Palmolive cares, reflects its values back into the international community around really making sure we're securing Bright Smiles, Bright Futures by doing a lot of the sampling and a lot of the dental accessibility, whether it be at vans in rural communities and things like that, to really help gain this oral care health access. And then the other one was, after Bright Smiles, Bright Futures,
The Power of a Smile. The video, kind of,
yes.
I think it was a tearjerker. I haven't watched it in a while, but I
Well, it
remember.
actually just won one of those big advertising awards. I didn't have anything to do with that, by the way. But it has been an equity campaign around the Colgate brand that really reflected the power of a smile, reflecting the optimism of human nature. And it was a campaign we ran a lot, even during COVID, because it was really reflective of what we wanted to show people. You can still smile, and there's still products that help you through this. And we have science, a lot of science behind these products, where health was a primary motivator for people during that time. And there were a lot of people who couldn't get to the dentist during that time. So, Colgate wanted to play a role that was bigger than the product. And that's a little bit some of the backstory behind those awesome campaigns.
Okay, I didn't shed a tear, but I am thinking the video. Maybe a little bit back to then upskilling your workforce. So when I go to LinkedIn, and not just to look up Brigitte so I can prepare to talk to her on stage, but seeing all the people from Colgate that we're networked to, people are advertising their certifications. They seem really energized around getting upskilled. Tell us a bit about that one.
Sure. So we have a couple of really formal upskilling programs across Colgate, the world, all our subsidiaries, and one of them is around digital, and we actually did certification courses and programs. Colgate's always been a learning company, but we have a learning and development team that I couldn't do my job without, and they helped us work with companies like Circus Street, and we developed courses and certifications that we basically put out there into the Colgate world. We have dedicated learning hours that people need to spend time on, so they can do these courses. And to your point, Dave, on LinkedIn, one of the most satisfying things you see is all these employees posting their badges and really being proud of it. And we have our senior leaders taking these courses. I actually had to take one last week. I spent an hour on AI and ML. And there's a difference between the two. You need to know what they are, and you need to understand data science. So I was actually taking the course, and some of it I knew, and some of it I didn't. And it's a real dedication on behalf of Colgate to upskill its population, especially in these new areas. We also have another certification going on data and analytics. So these are the new areas you have to master. And it's an expectation now that our employee base is dedicated to it, and they get excited, equally competitive, about who gets the badges first.
So now the people are getting upskilled in digital transformation technologies, but you have to move this company that's pretty mature and change the organization. Can you tell us a bit about that organizational change, that a lot of it falls to you, right?
Yeah, look, I think there are capabilities you need to build into any organization. And if I'll get a little technical here if you don't mind, but we worked with BCG and Google, right, who have really mapped out what are the fundamental digital capabilities you have to master in order to really run at speed. One of them, there's four. One of them is your ability to do really good data-driven targeting. Like, that is the name of the game today, right? Finding your audiences, targeting them effectively with content that matters and is relevant. That is a capability, and we have to build towards that. The second capability is automating. Using automation in everything that you can do digitally, whether it's your digital media buying, the way you conduct search, the way you're running your e-com business, your analytics for digital shelves, like all those things, you need to pump in as much automation as you can into the system. And then third, you have to develop a measurement ecosystem. You really have to know how to measure what you've done. So scaling MMMs, marketing mix models, tracking campaign ROIs, making sure you have clean data that can show you results. All that stuff's really important. And then fundamentally, the last one, the fourth capability for doing digital at scale is organizational collaboration, agile ways of working, de-siloing teams. And that, Dave, is the hardest one. We have successfully, at Colgate-Palmolive, been benchmarked by BCG as moving faster and more consistently than all of our peers, so I do get to put a plug in for my digital team there, across those dimensions, which is amazing because we've been on this 2-year journey, and we've made that kind of a shift where they said, you've moved faster and better. But I still know we have more to do. And I think the hardest part of change management is that last one. How do you really de-silo teams to work together differently? How do you meet the consumer journey in a new way? How do you make sure budgets aren't stuck, in an anniversary mode? Those are the kinds of things that are super hard to unpack. So that is probably a lot of what I'll spend this year on. That was a hard question.
Okay, the next one, I don't know if the next one, they don't get any easier, Brigitte, sorry. I guess the last prepared question I had was around fostering that culture of curiosity, creativity. We hear innovation a lot, but once again, a lot of those things also fall to you with your partner leaders at Colgate. How do you keep those people curious and acting creatively?
You know, I actually use a lot of data. I find it incredibly exciting to show people new data that they can get excited about that fuels their creativity and their curiosity. I'll give you a simple one, right? I publish search trend reports all the time because I need to know, and we need to know, what our top rising desktop mobile searches look like on oral care. And we need to know that on home care, and we need to understand trends on TikTok. We launched an amazing video, a campaign on Fabuloso on TikTok. And it was all based on the consumer insight of how people love to sing songs while they're cleaning their floors in Mexico. And Fabuloso was a brand that just lent itself. So good social listening, uncovering new data and insights led to the creation of this campaign. And it blew away market share. It created amazing engagement. It kind of reinfused the brand. And it was really exciting. The teams in Latin America just took it and ran with it. And that's the kind of data that I think inspires creativity. And I do think today there's so much creativity that can come from good insights and great data.
Luckily, I know a company that's in the data business.
Yes.
Starts with a G and ends with Oogle. But anyhow, so that was it for the prepared questions that I had.
Okay.
Anything else you want to throw out there
No,
for
I
our
want to
audience?
ask about your shoes.
So the shoes were supposed to be the family texted a picture early December for the holidays. Get Dad these, and they didn't come, so I had to get them myself. But they were on sale after Christmas.
All
The
right.
trousers are a better story. Thrifted with my daughter, $11 in Canada, which is like less than 10 in the U.S. Because I'm an IT person and a rugby player, and I'm trying to keep up with the brand. People coming to brand innovators is most of what I learned here is around how to market your brand and marketing people. So always
Google
value.
Cloud, but he wanted me to ask about his outfit. So all good. Very creative. Very creative.
Questions from the audience? Yes, and in case you just joined us, first state your name and where you're from, please. And I can bring you a microphone unless you really agree to project.
I'll project.
That is not it. A little loud.
Gary from Edgy. I just wanted to ask, you talked a lot about data and insights and digital transformation. What are some of the goals that you have for digital transformation over the next few years that you're kind of looking strategically planning?
I mean, look, we have, as I said, pretty quantifiable goals, right? We're going to drive efficiency out of our digital media. We're going to drive more creative effectiveness out of our digital media. And so we actually have, goals we're going after in terms of driving efficiency and maximizing every dollar we spend. We have goals around the acquisition of 1P data that I can't share here publicly, but we absolutely know 1P data will be one of the important criteria to go after in our digital transformation. And then I talk a lot about like actionable search and actionable social. We're not doing social media to do social media. We need calls to action. We need to have websites that really drive people in the consumer journey to progression. And so we've really quantified goals around each one of those things. But the whole ecosystem is broad and, as I mentioned before, complex. It's a matter of kind of keeping your eye on the things that matter most, which is for a company like Colgate-Palmolive, maximizing your digital media spend in all ways possible, and then really making sure that every campaign is working creatively and media-wise as best as possible. And then going after the things that matter. In a cookieless world, how much 1P data are we going to need, and what can we do with that? It's a huge opportunity for insights and direct one-to-one relationships with our consumer base.
Hi, Holly from Avenue Code. You talked a little bit about getting away from silos, getting away from budgets being locked until an annual cycle. I know when you're working with digital transformation, especially on a global scale, one of the bigger challenges is around you try a lot of things and a lot of them don't work, even if they were data-driven. Can you talk a little bit about cultivating a mindset of resilience and adaptability?
Yeah, it's a great question. So part of what goes with digital transformation is test and learn, right? Test and learn. And what goes with that is fail, right? Which nobody likes to talk about. But if you test and learn a lot of things, not all of them are going to work. I personally believe, as I've seen multiple businesses do test and learns, that you have to balance it. I mean, that's why I talked about the measurement ecosystem. It's so important. You have to, at some point, prove your ROI on something. And so you really need that to be able to counterbalance, right, the ability to test and learn. What I think businesses struggle with is, do I have enough money to carve out to do a test and learn? And if they're all failing, what do I do then? And I think, with partners like Google, you have to have vendors around you that you can partner with to test and learn and, figure out why it's not working. But personally, test and learn's on the agenda for me as well, but it's a portion of what I do, right? Looking at the ROI studies that I have now is the majority of what I do. But I also insert a lot of new things into the ROI studies. So for a big CPG company like ours, I'll give you an example. We hadn't put email into our MMMs. I'm like, why aren't we putting email? It's a touch point. And all of a sudden, you see the ROI on email, and people are like, what? And all of a sudden, you're unlocking a whole new way of developing marketing with email. And so that's how I've kind of leaned into test and learn, but also quantified it in order to prove the value. Look, I think, I was not at Colgate at the time that we experienced that channel conflict conversation. I think what's happened today, and I really say this in all sincerity, it's consumer habits won, right? The consumer is the one who decides where they want to purchase, how they want to purchase. So our job, retailers and brands alike, is to create as frictionless a consumer journey as possible. And if that means I sell on your retailer site or on my D2C website or in the physical store, that's my job. I just have to do it well everywhere. And so I think, I grew up in the channel conflict conversations. Thank you for bringing me back to that. Those were not easy conversations with retailers, but look what's happening today, retailer data sharing, right? I mean, people realize that what we're looking for is engagement and share of wallet with our consumer. And what we need to do that together is what we should be focused on. So I'm passionate about that conversation. It's to me, the consumer won. And they're the ones who decide how and where they want to purchase.
It's interesting that you say you think you're most insightful and such in the morning, because I think you dropped a lot of insights here this afternoon. So thank you so much. Big round of applause for these two. Thank you.